smell the total wine over there in your neighborhood?
You know what? If it's close, I can grab the Carrollton and get Lone Star beer.
And they usually carry it there, so.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you for being here. Members of the committee, we'll call this subcommittee meeting to order. Chairman Smith, the microphone is yours. If you want to talk to us about the bill you have, measure you have before us, LC number, floor is yours, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Members of the committee, Mr. Chairman, chairmans, bring to you today House Bill 210 dealing with alcoholic beverages, retail dealers, and a revision of a few provisions here. Just a little background. In 1933, the end of Prohibition, Title III was passed, giving Georgia Department of Revenue power to enforce alcohol laws. DOR is actually neutral on this bill after agreed upon tax language. And so basically the breakdown would be this, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This proposes a license phase in process per county per annum, allowing for one licensee to hold up 7 additional liquor licenses, which would be 9 total. More opportunity for customers in rapidly growing areas of the state. This would not structurally change the 3-tiered system, only includes opportunities for more businesses based on proportional growth in each county. Basing an expansion of liquor licenses on sales tax revenue would benefit larger metro counties and also smaller counties with larger tax digest due to tourism. This would not unilaterally apply to any one county, but provides option for counties who experience year-to-year economic growth. It would also double tastings from 52 to 104 times a year. Tastings instills a lot of customer confidence and increases sales growth for brands that different folks actually carry at their businesses. So, Mr. Chairman, in the attempt to be brief, that is the synopsis of the legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any questions from members of the committee? Somehow I knew you'd have some questions, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I just kind of earned my pay today, right? The Tyler, Paul, do you have like a map or could show us what counties would be, I guess, encumbered by or have the opportunity with $750 million more?
I can get you the data point here. I know that 10 counties, according to DOR data, that would meet the sales tax revenue mark of $200 million would be Fulton, Gwinnett, DeKalb, Cobb, Chatham, Fulton, Atlanta area, Muskogee, Richmond, Henry, Clayton, and Forsyth.
Yes, $750 million. And so you said something about tourism. Are you saying you think in Savannah? Is that or Chatham County?
I would not. I'd use this example. So Fruithurst Winery, right over the line in Alabama from where I live over in Harrelson. They actually were one of the first wineries I remember opening up. And so a lot of people from right there on the edge of the state would go over there, and they'd have wine tastings there. That was a big draw. And so I don't think that's just limited to, the tastings part.
Oh, well,
Mr.
yeah, I hadn't asked that yet. So I was just curious on the tastings. Has the industry seen that 52 tastings generally is not enough, or are there?
So generally 52 tastings, this is just a lawyer trying to do simple math because that's why I went to law school, right? Basically you think one time a year, or one time a week.
Yeah.
For 52 weeks out of the year. And, some venues may be open more than just the weekends, but that would work for those that are just open on weekends. But I think expanding business, even for those already in existence here, not talking about the new business that may or may not come into our state as a result of this, I think that this helps them, open their doors more frequently than just once a week. I mean, that's a draw, right? And so they could draw more crowds at different parts of the week.
So if they're going to build the facilities to have it for once a week, it would just be better using their money to do it more than once.
That'd be my understanding.
Good.
Chairman Smith, if could you go with me line 67 through 70? Excuse me. And just speak to the changes that you're proposing there, please, sir.
Yes, so this would allow for the new location to be able to take advantage of these changes that we're suggesting here, not the existing. That's how I read it, but I know there's a lot of experts in the crowd that may testify otherwise, which
Sure.
that's okay too.
And if I could, my last question, a couple of lines back on page 2, line 24 and 26, you referenced collected $750 million or more in tax revenue. Forgive my lack of knowledge, is that an arbitrary number? Is that an industry standard? How was that number determined?
That was a number suggested just due to, for this part of the legislation, these are bigger businesses that come in, and so it's kind of a different category unto itself. That way that, we make sure that this doesn't encroach upon those smaller establishments in our more rural or suburban areas.
Understood. Again, just wanted to understand that number. Chairman Powell, you have any questions before I go to audience participation?
Well, I certainly do appreciate the author of the bill. I appreciate him so much. That's the reason subcommittee's having a hearing on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I was hoping nobody was going to make mention of sections 1 and 2 because I wasn't even going to address this issue. But, it's been the position of this chair and a lot of the other folks here about breaking the 2-store limit. That would be the liquor industry, retail liquor industry is probably the last bastion of the small business people that we have. And I remember years ago issues that dealt up in Washington State, and I think maybe Oregon too, but when they broke the 2-store limit up there, and remember this isn't just for Total Wines and their business model. This would be the Costco's, what's the other one? Walmart, but Sam's, the big box stores. And once that's broke, they came in up there in those states and they ran the price of alcohol down to nothing. Took all the business, shut down all the small operations. And then once all the small competitors were gone, the prices went up. And that's always been my concern about looking after the small business people, because alcohol is a unique issue to deal with. And that's, quite frankly, one of the reasons this has always been taboo on that part of it. On wine tastings, I think there were overtures made this year to possibly expand the wine tastings, but somehow it got caught up into negotiations where there was a possibility and something happened that I can't tell you. It might have been over on the Senate side. That's the reason it went, but I appreciate you talking about the taste.
Yes, sir. And for me, I don't know if it's a proper time for cut bait and don't want to get in front of any others, but, in my mind, if I had something that I had to have, so to speak, had to cut bait, tastings would be what I think would be most beneficial. I share your concern too. Sure don't want to have to be relegated to Boone's Farm as, having the same price point as what my folks out in Bremen would with the fine Trillium winery out there.
Living so close to the South Carolina line, I saw what happened over there years ago before I could really appreciate it. And I think that the same folks that are being the parent company that so many good folks are representing here, they were a big key into that over in Carolina. And once they got what they wanted, they decided, hell, they didn't want what they got. And there was a hasty retreat to back up over in South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Smith, if nothing else, for the moment, we have two folks signed up to speak. Jeremy Collins, if you want to come and join us at the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm going to be very brief. Thank you for holding this meeting to let us discuss this bill. I understand it's a hearing only. I'm just going to talk about a few things. 750 was mentioned. $1 million. If you don't have it in front of you, we adjusted that with a committee sub to 200 million, and it's based on the sales tax. We worked with with Legislative Council to come up with that number, so that would be adjusted moving forward. And that it still encompasses what Chairman Smith mentioned with that sort of region when he was naming different counties. So that's just one thing. And then I'd like to mention when this bill or when this law was put into place, there was about 5 million people, Georgians, and now there's about 12. So that's one of the reasons that we think that the reason for this is because the population has more than doubled. I guess I'll be brief really quick, but this bill has come up in the past several years, and it's always, let's discuss it, let's talk about it. And there's obviously a multitude of things when you get through a bill that can have some people of concern, but the biggest concern that I hear each year is a valid concern that it's going to threaten the mom and pops, the smaller communities around the state, that smaller shops. Maybe we got one, maybe two, maybe three. We tried to address that this year, getting that feedback over the last several years. And it's debatable whether you can do a population bill in Georgia. Some people say you can, some people say you can't. So it's a gray area. So we tried to use that population to address that with members that aren't from Metro Atlanta, that are worried about their constituents that might own one or two. So we tried to tighten that up without using population, to use that to address the number one thing I hear when discussing this over the past few years. I can go on. I know that Chairman Smith he's chairing another committee. He just left to come present this, so I know he needs to get back to that. I'm happy to speak to anybody offline. I do appreciate you, Chairman, and you, Chairman Powell, for letting us have this. And like I said, we tried to address the largest concern that we had heard.
Thank you, Chairman Jaspers. You have a question?
I have a question, Jeremy, if you would. I'd like to see, following what you're discussing and what Chairman Powell said, looking at states that have done this and looking at the population of smaller ones and what they did over time. I think for your behalf, it would be good to show us what happened actually over 5 years, if whatever you could do.
Yes, sir, and we have that. I'm just trying to be very brief because you guys are allowing us to have this hearing only. So we can certainly share that with you after crossover day and see where the conversation goes, whether it's this year or next year. And I used to like to point to South Carolina. It just passed. I know that Chairman Powell just mentioned that, but they passed it several years ago, and they have roughly half of the population of us. I think they moved from 2 to 6 or 3 to 6. But yes, we have that. I'm just trying to respect the members'
Certainly.
time and also Chairman Smith's time because he's currently chairing a committee that he walked away from. But yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Jaspers. Mr. Pratt, if you want to join us at the podium up here, please, sir. If you don't mind, introduce yourself and make your case.
Be happy to. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Dave Pratt. I'm here on behalf of the Georgia Alcohol Dealers Association. And in respect for y'all's time, I'll be very, very brief. I did have a statement prepared by the Executive Director of the GADA, Tony McGill, but I'll just touch on the points. It pains me personally to speak against a bill that's brought forward by my dear, dear friend from Bremen, but the GADA is vehemently opposed to this bill, specifically the part that would expand the number of stores that a single entity can own. We think that that Chairman Powell has articulated it properly. There is a fear that this may impede the way that small businesses operate in this state. We have nearly 500 members across the state. No one from Georgia wants to bring this measure forward. This is brought forth by an out-of-state entity, and we think that the way that the system now works just fine. Relative to tastings, GADA has no problem with that as long as there's proper oversight exercised by the Georgia Department of Revenue. As it stands right now, there are varied systems across the state governed by local municipalities or counties. We believe that it's proper that a uniform process be set in motion if tastings are expanded or changed from its current makeup. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have. But again, in respect of your time, I want to keep it brief.
Seeing no questions from the committee, thanks for being here.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Appreciate it. Chairman Smith, Mr. Collins referenced a substitute that you have and are working on, and with all due respect to the chairman, I don't have that. I don't have that for the committee. So all I would ask is that if you and I could work on that together and take a look at that so that I could get that to the members of the committee and we could have further discussions. Just as fair, it's not a problem. Just that way we can all sing from the same sheet of music. I'll recognize Chairman Powell for our closing comments.
Thank my good friend, Chairman, for this, and to the Chairman of the subcommittee. I only have a comment to make because I know that a lot of the hired guns that are out here in appearance today, y'all are being hired by an industry, a company that wants what they want. And I understand that, and I've already, as the good guy that testified, I've articulated my position on the 2-store limit. But I want to add something to that for all of those, that a lot of the folks that come to the office, even as frivolous and as simple as a change in alcohol statutes might be, one of the reasons that we are so particular about guarding about things getting loose is because they can be used as a vehicle. And if anything is passed out, there's going to have to be some strict handshake agreements that that's what it's used for, and not something that it could be expanded, because alcohol is a unique product. We may not think about it that way, but it is. Always has been. Only reason in the Constitution they mention alcohol, probably the only product mentioned other than freedom and freedom of speech and Second Amendment rights. But that being said, that's the reason that this chair is so particular that we keep this industry as sound and as controlled as it is. When simple bills like delivery, home delivery, doesn't sound like a bad idea in this day and time we live in, where you got Uber and people who don't pay their damn taxes, but, you know, and that's a delivery. But once you start delivering over a jurisdictional line, somebody's going to lose out on tax revenue at some point, and that makes these guys at Revenue's job that much worse, and to the local governments that are losing revenue. So something as simple as that is the reason that we keep such a tight fist on this, so it doesn't get out of hand. I want to thank y'all. I want to thank everybody here for understanding my position, and if you don't understand it, all you got to do is ask me.
No doubt in my mind, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Smith. I look forward to working with you, and with that, committee will stand adjourned.